Right. This is the map of the Northeast India as we see. It's very clear. You have Nepal and Bhutan, Tibet on the north, and India on the bottom, and you have the Siliguri corridor, right, which is right there. We all know it. It is an understatement to say that Nepal and Bhutan are probably the two most important neighbors we have. In fact, one of our, viewers has already given a large comment, which we'll take it up at the end and we'll discuss it because he made some very important comments. But having said that, what we'll do today is that we'll first discuss Nepal, and then we will, take on Bhutan, right? I'll give a little overview of Nepal. I think these are the issues which you have to think, and we'll take off there. Nepal is, north of Nepal is the Western Highway of Tibet, right, from Lhasa on to eastern Ladakh, just about 50 to 100 kilometers away from the border. Then the Mansarovar is across in the area in Tibet where I've shown. Then we had the Lipulek Pass. जो लिपुलेक पास का जो पूरा किस्सा ईस्टर्न लद्दाख जब प्रॉब्लम हो रहा था, चाइना ने छेड़ा था थ्रू नेपाल, राइट? वो जहां कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं था, काला पानी, ये इलाका, वो इलाका वगैरह, लिम्पू द्यारा, वो किस्सा भी है। उसके साथ साथ नेपाल ने एक रेल रोड भी शुरू किया है। ये सिर्फ अभी शुरुआत है, काफी दिन लगेगा, पर रियलिटी है, किसी दिन होने के लिए। केरुंग से लेकर, राइट, ये जैसे लुम्बिनी तक और पोकारा तक और काठमांडू के जरिए आते हुए इसका सिर्फ ये हुआ है। और तो और हमें जैसे पता है अभी नेपाल में एक गवर्नमेंट है जो टिपिकली कम्युनिस्ट माओइस्ट गवर्नमेंट है और जो चाइना की तरफ झुका हुआ है। सो दीज 3 or 4 overriding things are there in Nepal. And where do you see your interests, and what do we do, and how does India take it on? All yours, Shokin.
Thank you, sir. सबसे पहले तो General Shankar has spoken about my credentials to talk about Nepal. I would like to highlight 2-3 things. As he said, before I could speak any other language, I first spoke Nepali. Because I know that. I was born in the regimental center of the 11 Gurkha Rifles in Dehradun.
Good.
One of the very, very few who went on to command the center subsequently. Yeah. I have trekked in Nepal from the east to the west many times. I have lived in my soldiers' homes. I have traveled with them. I speak their dialects. I speak Nepali very, very fluently. And then I had the privilege of being India's defense advisor or defense attaché during the time when the Jan Andolan or the Maoist movement Jan Andolan 2 was going on. And the king was removed, and we then got a democratic government in Nepal. And to ensure that after this, when I came back from Nepal and when I was finishing up my service, I decided that I would do a PhD on Nepal. And I completed this PhD a couple of years back, 2021, on the Indo-Nepal strategic relations. So why is Nepal important? Let me just take you back to the map.
Yeah,
Nepal's geographical position and historical development are very essential determining factors of Nepal's, foreign policy. The unique location of Nepal, where is it located? It is located, Shankar sir, can you just point that out?
Yeah.
It is located on the Indo-Gangetic belt of India, on the head of the Indo-Gangetic belt. And as we know, the Indo-Gangetic belt is actually India's heartland. It's the heartland not for the people, but for the the rivers that pass through it, and for the 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 development of our society and our civilization, which we hold so close to ourselves today. So Nepal sits on that head, and between Nepal and India is the country in the north, China. Actually, it is Tibet, but since China has taken over Tibet, it is now China. That is between India and Nepal. So Nepal is the buffer between India and China. Now, the second part of Nepal's geography, and I want you to want this to be very clear, is that there are no barriers as you cross the Himalayas, get into Nepal, and go southwards towards India. There are no defensive barriers at all. The only barrier that we have between us and China is the the Great Himalayan Mountains. So if the PLA was to walk into Nepal or come in as a force friendly to Nepal but unfriendly to India, India would not be able to stop them because there are no defensive lines anywhere. So that's the first thing. And that is why it is important for us to tell Nepal that she falls in India's security framework. We cannot allow inimical elements to cross the Himalayas into Nepal. We cannot, because there is no place then to
We can't
stop
think of
any
it also.
force. Yeah, there is no place to stop any force from then rolling into the plains of India. So that's the
And that's
first
our
issue.
heartland. And
It's
that's
our
our
heartland,
heartland.
sir. In
Yeah.
the Indo-Gangetic Plain. It's
Plain.
from where our civilization started.
Yeah.
Now, the second issue, which is important, is that when there are no defensive lines, when we can't allow people to cross through, the second issue is that we to Nepal are the lower riparian country. All of Nepal's rivers flow into
Flow
India.
into India.
If you just take them back to the map, sir,
Yeah, we will.
and you will find all these rivers flowing into
Yeah.
India. You talked of the annual floods, the Kosi River, which annually floods the Indo-Gangetic Plain, enters India from Nepal. If Nepal's waters are to flow unchecked into India, they would cause, as they continue to cause, huge amount of pain, because Kosi is the river of pain. It's known as the river of tears to the people living in these Indo-Gangetic plains. So Nepal controls all the waters to us. Nepal controls our heartland. And therefore, it is important for all of us to understand that though Nepal is a small little country, there is nothing we can do without Nepal. We certainly cannot defend our country without Nepal. So these are the two issues that I want you to understand about Nepal, and I will subsequently be talking about Nepal's history and geography and how it relates to India. Over to you, Shankar sir.
Yeah, I think that's a very good start point. And we just can't afford any PLA troops or activities, right? I'm talking of the PLA. I'm not talking of the Chinese activities, because Chinese activity is already there. They're already active in that area. We can't let them come in, right? But with the plans afoot, with the current situation, and we all know we are in an adverse situation in politically in a slightly adverse situation in Nepal at this point of time, but it might change tomorrow. And the Chinese have come with a whole lot of money bags, right? That's on one side. And like very clearly, during the Jan Andolan, a lot of Marxist people and the Maoists have, you know, taken over the political space in China, aided and abetted by, sorry, political space in Nepal, aided and abetted by China. Right. In this kind of a sitting, that's the negative part. But we also have a positive part. We have so many Gorkha people living there who have served for us, who have shed blood for us, plus their extended families, right? And then, as you know, in a way, the ethnic, I wouldn't say divide, composition of Nepal with the northern hills people and the southern, the Terai and the plains people, having a lot of ethnic, you know,
Similarities.
similarity with our heartland. And we cannot also forget, I mean, many of us tend to forget this very easily, that uh, Nepal is still the only Hindu state. Okay, whatever it used to be the only Hindu kingdom, today it's the only Hindu state. Okay,
So let
plus
me, sir, come to,
can I
it's,
one
yeah,
minute,
yeah, yeah.
one more point, and I think then we can I'll
Great
hand
question.
it over.
Great
Plus
question.
the fact, as rivers flow down, people also flow down with the water, and the people of Nepal will come more towards India than go towards Tibet for opportunities.
Very right. Absolutely, sir.
And today I see, I'm sitting in South India, deep in Chennai. I see a whole lot of Nepalese who come here and work here, and they mingle with our people. And actually, at a people to people level, there's hardly any difference between a Nepali and, uh, you know, Indian. So, with this kind of a thing, where do you see things going in Nepal, and what do we have to do? Over to you, Shukin.
Sir, I'd like to, firstly try and explain three, four things to you,
Yeah,
which I feel are giving the wrong impression about Nepal and its governments. Firstly, Prachanda's government is Prachanda's party is actually the 18th divide of the Communist Party of Nepal that
yeah, I
started
agree
in
with you.
1951.
They are on a merry-go-round as it is. Anyone hops in and hops
So
off. Yeah,
they keep splitting. Each becomes
yeah,
a little more rabid than the other.
yeah, yeah. I
The
agree with you.
second issue that I would like to, if there are any Nepalis in the show, I would like to tell them that when the Jan Andolan was going on and King Gyanendra was in power, the Chinese did not support the Jan Andolan.
Yeah,
They
they won't.
did not
They won't.
call them Maoists, they
Oh, yeah.
called them anti-government troops.
Okay.
Not a single word of support came from China. China was a silent observer which was helping the Royal Nepalese Army to counter this anti-government movement that it got.
Okay.
So that's the first issue,
Yep.
that China has not shown any kind of loyalty to this communist government which is now in power. The second issue, Prachanda is being held in place by the Nepal Congress
I
and by
agree.
7 other parties, including the King's Party, the RPP,
Mm.
which in itself means that it is not in any way a Chinese Communist Party. They're in par, if anything, for just 53 to 60 seats. And in fact, the Nepal Congress has far more seats than them in the parliament.
Yeah.
But it is being supported because the Nepal Congress was not being supported. That's the second issue. The third issue is that Nepal recognizes the fact that there are two large countries that are between them, that they are surrounded by. If
Yeah.
you go to the Nepal foreign ministry, sir, you will see a quote in golden letters right on top as you enter the foreign ministry headquarters, Shashi Bhavan, in which they say Nepal, they quote the king, Prithvi Narayan Shah, who said that Nepal is a yam between two boulders.
Right.
The boulder of the south, or the kingdom of the south, that is China, and the kingdom, that is India, and the kingdom of the south, that is China in the north and India in the south. And Nepal is just a small yam. And Nepal has realized over the last 300-400 years that to survive, she must continue to balance. जिसका balance stronger है, Nepal will go towards that side.
Towards that side, yes. On that there's no doubt.
जिस दिन वो pendulum हमारी तरफ आता है, you can be absolutely sure that the change will happen overnight.
Yep.
ये
On that.
दूसरी चीज है सर. तीसरी चीज is that history will tell you, and we must read the Treaty of Thapatali.
Mm.
In 1754, the Nepalese kingdom from Kathmandu launched an attack on Tibet.
Yes.
And after that, the Tibetans asked the Chinese emperor for
To help.
assistance,
Yes.
which was provided.
Yes.
And the Nepalese army was defeated. After it was defeated at Thapatali, Nepal was forced, and I'm talking of 1754, sir.
Yeah, I agree. I see your point.
Nepal was forced to concede and became and had to give the Chinese
tribute.
emperor a tribute every
Yeah.
5 years.
Yes.
And the Chinese king used to call the Nepalese king as Wang.
Mm.
Means one of the kings who owe allegiance to the kingdom of the north.
Yep.
What happens after this? There are 3 wars that are held between the colonial British power in 1814, 1804, 1806, and finally 1814-16, where Nepal is fully defeated. The Anglo-Gorkha wars of the 3 wars. After they are defeated and the British start entering Nepal, Nepal changes tack. And from paying tribute to the king in the north,
it started paying
start
tribute to the north.
Paying tribute to the king of the south.
And not only that, by then the Britishers had also virtually kicked the Chinese
Mughals out.
No, they kicked the Mughals out. They had also started kicking the Chinese out.
Absolutely. So,
right? And of course, if I may add
on
to
the
what,
balance.
No, if I may add, you made a very interesting thing. It depends on the balance. You see, the history of China and its relationship with Tibet is also primal to, conjoined or primal to what you're saying.
Absolutely.
Because whenever the power of the Chinese has been high, right? Tibet has had one equation with China. As a result, extension Nepal's equation with China was different. When the Chinese kingdoms were weak, Nepal and Tibet became more independent, right? So that also there. Whenever the power of Chinese is also a factor, it is not only the local politics. And if tomorrow the Chinese power goes down, and if it's, why I'm triggering this beforehand is, we see that China has peaked in some manner. And if China doesn't rise, and we continue our rise, right? Our rise the way we are, the equations in Nepal will change completely. Am I right?
Absolutely, sir. And this is what I want our people to understand. That do not judge what is there in Nepal today, because this yin and yang of Nepal's existence has happened over many years. Nepal understands the issue that to stay independent, she has to balance.
Yep.
Now, in 1951, Shankar sir, Mao gave a statement.
Yeah.
Saying that Nepal, Bhutan, Ladakh, Arunachal and Taiwan are 5 fingers of
Yeah,
the
five
palm of
fingers.
China.
Yep. I've written an article about it, mind you.
And therefore, all these 5 fingers must be unified.
Unified. Yes.
This is 1951.
Hmm.
After 1951, when King Mahendra was in power, when he heard this particular statement, he immediately came to the Prime Minister of India and requested for help from the Prime Minister of India to reform the Royal Nepalese Army.
Yeah.
One, to reform it. Second, to establish Indian Army posts along the Himalayan region between Nepal and Tibet. Because China had entered Tibet,
Yeah.
Nepal was afraid that the next situation would be that China
We
would
with
enter
yeah.
Nepal. And therefore, the Indian military training team, the
Got
IMTT,
established there. Intrat.
got
Yeah.
established in Nepal
Nepal.
and established a number of posts along the Nepalese Chinese border or
Border.
Nepalese Tibetan border.
Right.
When we lost the 1962 war, was the time that Nepal realized that if India could not protect itself,
How can
there
it
is no
protect
way
Nepal?
India can protect China, Nepal. And therefore started reaching out to China to balance this equation.
Yeah.
And that is how the history of Chinese interference or history of China coming into Nepal starts from that time.
I agree with you. I
So
think
this is the balance, sir. The
balance.
balance
And
that
I
I want our people to know.
yeah. Now, having said that, we've got understood this whole thing about balance. We've understood that as India rises and China flattens out, this balance is likely to shift. That's in the future, and I think it will happen.
I have
Right?
no doubt, sir. I have
I
no
have
doubt.
no doubt. I have no doubt. And given the ethnic connection, given the religious connection, because the religion plays a big part
No
in
doubt.
everyone's psyche, and the fact that we have a whole lot of Nepalese still in our armed forces serving our flag, and the fact that we have huge connect, and you have the Dhoti Beti Ka Rishta also from the Tarai,
Roti beti.
Roti Beti, right? Roti Beti Ka Rishta also from Tarai across, right? And given the conditions in which China has got into, you know, Nepal, how do you see us in the medium term, on the short term, handling Nepal?
Okay. So firstly, let's talk of the geography of Nepal. The Nepal geography is distinctly divided in three factors. The upper northern regions are the less populated regions bordering Tibet.
Right?
The second region are the middle hills, where
Yes.
the Magars, the Pons in the west, the Chetris and the Bahuns in the center, and the Rais and the Limbus and the Tawangs in the east. These are the tribes that dominate the middle hills. Then comes the valley of Kathmandu, which is on the middle hills, dominated mainly by the 250 families that served the king and by the Chetri Bahuns who today form the leadership of all political parties, all across
All.
the
Yeah.
board. And then finally comes the four districts of Madhes. Now, an
Madesh. Yes.
interesting story of Madhes is that after the Nepalese lost the Madhes connection to the British in 1814, Madhes was not a part of Nepal. It is after the 1857 First War of Independence, in which Nepal contributed a great deal to assisting the British to hold on to the Indian colonial empire,
It was given back.
that the British gave back these four districts of the
Yes.
Madhes to them.
Right.
So these three distinct geographical features are also distinct in the population that populate them.
Right.
Madhesh has 51% of the population of Nepal, maybe more, but they don't have political power. Why? Because in the delineation of seats, Madhesh has not been given a separate place for delineation.
Yep.
They have been included in the Middle Hills in such a way that in all the places where Madhesh is a part of, there is no political power given to the Madheshis. The
Right.
Middle Hills continue to dominate,
Okay.
and the upper hills or the upper mountains have no population worthy of it.
It's
So
on.
these
Yeah.
are the
I
three
that.
distinct hills.
Yeah. How do
Okay.
we handle this?
So the first issue is, let's talk about the Middle Hills. There are, as you have been mentioning often, 128,000 pensioners of the Indian Army. If you multiply this factor by 6, which is their immediate family, you have something like 10 to 15 lakh people who directly draw
Have.
their sustenance from India
Yep.
on a monthly basis. 4,000 crores plus is given to Nepal
Through
as a
this route.
part of the monthly pay and pension remunerations, which is a sizable amount of their GDP.
Yeah.
These pensioners of ours, sir, if you go to their villages, and I have gone to their villages, I
Yeah.
have lived with them, are leaders of their community. Why are they
Okay.
leaders of the community? They're better trained, they have more money, and their children are better educated because they have been educated in the military schools of India. 64 and maybe more in this new house, sir, at least I know it when I was there, were of the MPs in the Nepal's upper house or lower house, were actually children of our armed forces.
Right. Actually, you made a very interesting point, which I would like to add on to. Sometime back, the Nepal elections were held. A lot of young people who were not aligned to either party, but who wanted to get a new Nepal out, were on the roster for the first time, and and like you said, a substantial number of them would be children of the thing. So what you're trying to actually, you made 2 points here, Shrukin, if I may highlight and सबके लिए बताना चाहता हूँ. एक point तो ये है कि due to the armed forces and their presence and their extended families, you have huge support. And for
Absolutely.
that one reason alone, Nepal can never become a Chinese state or whatever it is.
Yes, it can
And
never become another Tibet.
Tibet. The second thing is that the second generation or the third generation Nepalese who are there today, a substantial portion of them are occupying the political space, right?
Political,
And
business leaders,
and
moneyed
yeah,
space.
yeah,
They are
money
leaders in
space,
their community, sir.
right? So that, and it brings me to the point that in Subco we have to reach out and strengthen their way forward, right? And see as to how to help them also, right? And of course, we have the look east policy, and we need to continue to help them out, like we helped them out during the earthquake. After all, we were the first responders into that area, right? And all those things are there. And I think from what you have explained, the whole thing, yeah, China will have a say because it's got a lot of money, it's got a lot of power at this point of time. But as days go by, we might not have, right? But I'll bring you to that analogy which
Sir,
is
एक और
actually,
बात करनी थी,
yeah, बोलिए.
that our people should also understand that till the Nepalese start marrying Han women and start speaking in Mandarin,
वो ये बंद ही
Nepal
नहीं होगा.
Nepal will go nowhere. हमारा
Yeah,
देश है,
yeah.
हमारे साथ है.
And
It is that we should get our act together.
yeah,
हमको करेक्ट जगहों में, जहां आपने अभी हाईलाइट करा है, हमको करेक्ट जगहों में हाईलाइट करना है, हमको करेक्ट जगहों में सपोर्ट देना है.
yeah.
And
And I'd like to,
Kathmandu, sir, is not Nepal.
Correct.
But I will explain
Nepal
this
is
to you later.
further, right? And
Much bigger.
like, and I'd like to add two more points to just to add on to what you said. The first thing is that you're talking of Nepalese marrying Han people. Actually, today, as per my research, even the Tibetans are not marrying Han.
Absolutely.
It's only that Han people, the Han population in Tibet, contrary to what many people think, is actually static and temporary. Why static and temporary? They're not marrying in, they're not settling permanently. The Han population in Tibet is largely those Han guys who come for projects. They come for projects, stay 5, 10 years, and go back. They don't have any local allegiance. And if Han don't have local allegiance with Tibet, coming and marrying, people in Nepal and all that is very far away, right? It's a dream. So I don't think we should even think of that, right? And the next thing which I would like to add on to, you spoke of a lot of people who are, ex-army people and their kith and kin and the new Nepal which is coming and all that. Like I told you, there is also a huge phenomenon of Nepalese people coming as far down as south to earn their livelihoods,
Bilkul, sir. Borders
right?
are open. Borders
Uh,
are open.
and I
One
mean,
third of Nepal's population is
is
working in
here,
India.
India, and they're not working in China.
They're not
You're,
working in China.
they're not working
Absolutely.
in China, and
Bilkul, absolutely.
they speak Kannada, they speak Tamil, they speak all, even Malayalam, right? And that's the connect we have, and I think we need to exploit this. The second thing, one thing more which I'd like to highlight is, I remember
Shankar
when the
sir, it's not exploitation. It is we need to understand it.
understand them.
हाँ, exploitation गलत word है sir. We have to understand our position in this world. We have to
Yeah,
know that we are the older brother, and we have to, like any older brother in any family does, we have to understand and give more to the Nepalese so that
then
they understand our security considerations
yes,
and work as per what we should as a family. I have
yeah,
always said the people of Nepal and the people of India are one family. We are two
that
nations, but one family.
yeah. The another thing which I'd like to highlight, when I my mind goes back to the earthquake. When the earthquake was to happened actually. Just before that, our Everest team had gone there. They were in the base camp,
Hmm.
and they were, preparing for the summit, to the climb to the Everest. When
Yes.
this earthquake happened, the our team converted itself into a rescued party there. They left the earthquake, the thing, and we and that's quite remembered there. And we have very deep connects on such issues. I just highlighted one incident. We can take n number of
Yeah, yeah,
incidents.
yeah. Absolutely,
Yeah,
sir.
right. So so I leave it at that. We'll leave Nepal here, and we'll progress to Bhutan, right? So we know what we have to do